This video is sponsored by Ratchet Clothing. All right, I'm taking another walk, getting my exercise in, clearing my head, and we'll tell another prison story. I enjoy taking these walks, as I mentioned in the last video, and I think about all good things and positive things. I don't think about any negativity. I think about how fortunate and blessed I am. I never understood how these people could go out in the woods, stay in the woods by themselves. I thought they were crazy, but I get it now. It's the peace and solitude that they seek, and now I do the same. Today I'm going to talk about a story that has to do with Ernie Grillo. Those of you who don't know, Ernie's a captain with the Gambino family. Back then when we were in Fishkill, he was just an associate like I was. Fishkill had 2 yards. There was the South Yard and there was the North Yard. The South Yard was mostly Spanish and white, and the North Yard was where the black guys stood. There was a court in the South Yard where the white guys stood, but unfortunately a lot of guys on that court had drug problems. So Ernie came up with an idea for us to go make a court in the North Yard. It was a little tricky to go do that, but nevertheless we did. So for the most part, we had a bunch of guys on the court in the North Yard. Most of us didn't do drugs, but here and there you had a guy or two who did. You just couldn't eliminate everybody. 2 of the guys on that court were friends with each other. One's name was John Beansy Barbella, and the other guy's name was Sonny. I don't remember Sonny's last name, but Sonny was Jewish. Once again, unfortunately, both of them were involved with drugs. And Ernie was closer to Sonny than he was to Beansy. He liked Sonny. We wind up chasing Beansy from the court over an incident that happened, and I'll explain. Beansy started staying with this young kid. He was an Indian kid, not an Indian from the country India, but an American Indian. So one day he brought this young kid out to the court, and we didn't mind, you know. He was with Beansy, so he was okay to come on the court. But what happened was, Ernie and I started noticing that they would wrestle with each other, and it was just a little uncomfortable. Something didn't seem right. Then Beansy got himself moved to the kid's unit, so now he lived with the kid. And one day, one of the guys that are on the court with us came out to the yard and told Ernie and I that he went in the bathroom and he seen something that didn't look right, and it was between Beansy and this young kid in the bathroom. Ernie and I didn't see anything. We never seen anything like that, but based on that, we chased Beansy from the court. Beansy didn't go quietly. He was very upset, and he said that in his 20 years in, and he had about 20 in at that time, he's never been chased from any court. We basically told him, well then, this is the first, because you're getting chased from this court, and you're not allowed on the court no more. And that was the end of that. Sonny did come to us, because that was his friend, and asked what happened, and we explained the situation, and he understood. And he continued to come to the court. And because Beansy had an attitude when he came over to us to tell us that he's never been kicked off a court, I knew that that wasn't going to sit well with Ernie. He never liked Beansy, and now he didn't even like him more. But a few weeks later, both Sonny and Beansy went for urines. What happens is that the facility or a correction officer or a guard thinks that you're getting high or you look high. He could put you in for a urine. But in most cases, inmates will drop slips, and they're basically telling on somebody. They'll drop a slip and they'll say, Sonny and Beansy are high, or whatever it is that they say, and they'll put them in for urine. And these guys are professionals. They know all the tricks. They drink water, they piss their pants, they somehow beat the urine. But in this particular incident, Sonny beat his urine, but Beansy came back dirty, which means his urine came back positive for opiates, which was heroin. So naturally, Sonny came out to the yard and told us what happened. He said that Beansy had been acting funny with him because Beansy is out until he has his hearing. He didn't go to his hearing yet. So one afternoon, I go out to the yard and I'm talking with Ernie, and he's got this sneaky smirk on his face. I said, what's up? He says, I got a plan. I says, a plan for what? He says, listen to what I'm going to do. He wanted to write a letter basically telling Beansy that Sonny gave him up. And that's how he got the dirty urine. Sonny basically sacrificed Beansy for himself. It wasn't true, but that's what Ernie wanted to do. So I was laughing. I said, Ernie, you're crazy. I says, but how are you going to get this letter to him? He says, I got a plan for that, but tomorrow you and I will go do it. I said, me? He said, yeah, I need you to help me. So Ernie says, I'm going to make them want to kill each other. So the next day I met Ernie in the yard, and he had the letter in his pocket. And he turns around and says to me, look what I did. He ripped the inside of his pocket, and what he was going to do was stick his hand with the letter inside his pocket, leave his zipper open, and take his hand outside of his zipper and chuck the letter in Beansy's cubicle. So he says, when we go back in from the yard, we'll go in and pass that unit, but I need you to watch out, make sure nobody's looking when I do this. So we went in, we got to Beansy's unit, and I was watching out. I gave him a nod. I went up a little ahead of him, and he threw this thing on Beansy's bed and kept walking. No one seen us. We didn't hear nothing that night. We went out to the yard. Sonny was out there. I think Beansy was out there, but we didn't hear nothing. Nobody said nothing about it. However, the next day, Sonny came out to the yard and his face was red. He was smoking. And he came over to me and Ernie and he says, come on, take a walk. I got to talk to you guys. We went and took a walk with him. He says, could you believe this fucking Beansy? How many years I know him? And he's blaming me. Somebody threw a kite. A kite is a letter in prison, for those of you who don't know. He said somebody threw a kite on his bed saying that I gave him up. I never gave him up. He fucking believes it. And they started arguing. So when Sonny left us, Ernie turned around and said to me, what did I tell you? I told you I'll make them kill each other. The funny thing was that when Sonny was telling us the story, Ernie was telling him, how could you think that? That's your good friend. Eventually, Beansy wound up going to his hearing. They found him guilty, and he went to the box. And after that, he got shipped out of the facility. So we just had Sonny with us for a little bit. But to be honest, and thinking back on it now, it really was a bad move. I'm surprised Ernie wanted to do it. It's not like giving the letter to a cop. But what if the cop went in Beansy's cube and read the letter? One part of the letter said, you know you guys were both dirty. And had the guard got his hands on that letter, they could have used that letter against Beansy. And I'm just as guilty as Ernie because I played chickie for him, meaning I was watching for him. Ernie had a crazy mind, and if he didn't like you, he could become treacherous. He would be very underhanded, as you could see from what he did. I hope you enjoyed this story. If you did, you could hit the like button if you want. I appreciate those who do. Take care. You can subscribe to the Sit Down News blog at sitdownnews.com, and I appreciate everyone who has subscribed. Thank you. Well, just another example in the mob you never knew about. Hope you enjoyed the story. If you would like to subscribe to this channel, you could do so down below. If you would like to subscribe to my other channel, Unlimited Substance Podcast, I'll add a link in the description to this video.